you start with what. So for example, when I got a call from Professor Mishra saying, if you could kindly come on the 5th and talk to our new students who have just joined, a group of, I'm told, about 400 of you. Then I asked him, what do you want me to talk about? What? So he said, you can talk on leadership and Singareni. I said, okay. Then I have to prepare myself. What do I tell you? Now please note, you go on repeating what, many, many times, not just once. Because you have to reflect and go inwards. Then I thought, okay, I have, as you have seen, brought some notes here. So I had to think, what should I say, and then how I should say. So I can adopt 2-3 methodologies. I can take a PowerPoint presentation, I can take a flip chart, I can have a question answer session, I can have a quiz session, I can form you into small groups and have a group discussion, or I can talk in what is called the plenary mode. This is the plenary mode where you address everybody together. So I had to decide that. Then third thing was how and why. So why should I talk of Viktor Frankl to you? Why do I not, for example, talk of Aristotle or Lord Buddha or Heraclitus? Why Socrates? So that means I have to have a framework of sequential thinking. Sequential thinking, also called fuzzy logic in today's modern times, is something which our education system does not train us to. Therefore, I urge each one of you to start training your mind. Come out of the conventional dogmatic thinking process that we enter school, it's a tough competition, then we go through school, we do our higher secondary or Indian school certificate or whatever, or intermediate. Then we start looking for opportunities to graduate. It could be in arts, science, engineering, medicine, whatever, architecture, law. But how many of us ask ourselves, why am I thinking of, let us say, doing BSc with physics, maths combination and not biology? Or why not chemistry? Or why not in engineering, let us say, aeronautical engineering or marine engineering? Why civil? So we have already made our decision that we are looking at the job market. How much can I earn? Where can I get promotions? Where can I get postings once I get a job? But we are not looking at who we are. Will we be happy in it? Can we be happy just being an engineer, a scientist, or a doctor? And we are not developing our inherent leadership qualities, which all of us have. So this is the vision mission framework. So let me just sum up this first part. I first introduced to you the concept of Dr. Viktor Frankl, and I urge each one of you to have a look at Man's Search for Meaning. The basis of logotherapy is that each individual must have a purpose in life. If you do not have a purpose in life, then there is very little to differentiate us from the green plants we see around us, which have their own language, which we don't follow, but they talk. We don't follow it, but they talk. We are human beings. We must have the capacity to go on improving ourselves. And that's why I said in the beginning, this is one of our cultural weaknesses, that we keep praising the good points of others or exaggerating them, but we don't look at their weaknesses. How many times have you heard a person who introduces a speaker saying, I introduce to you Mr. Khwaja, and then say a few things that he is this batch, that batch, he did this. And then you say, now I will tell you 10 very negative things about Mr. Khwaja. He has a terrible temper. He got suspended when he was, nobody is going to say, because the person will say, bhai, aapne kya hame बेइज्जत करने के लिए बुलाया है यहाँ, जलील करने के लिए बुलाया है, हमारी बुराइयां गिनने के लिए बुलाया है. But at the same time, when I introduce somebody, and I must have introduced in my career so many speakers in different assignments, I was very cautious and guarded in my introduction, and I would always say that to the best of my knowledge and as far as I know, like that. And I would tell the speaker in advance, देखिए साहब, मैं आपके तारीफों के पुल नहीं बांधूंगा. I am not going to praise you. I'll just introduce you as you are. The idea is not to humiliate somebody. The idea is not to praise somebody. The idea is, it's the context, it's the audience. So here there is a young audience, and I'm supposed to, I'm twice or thrice the age of most of you in this room. So I'm supposed to share my so-called experience and so-called wisdom. Wisdom is a very big word. I prefer to use the word knowledge, which is also a very big word. So the better word is information. What you call in today's computer world data. So Viktor Frankl urges you to understand the meaning in your lives. Then I mentioned about Socrates, and I mentioned that if you have a problem and you go to your guru, it could be anybody, and you just ask, I have this problem, what do I do? Then that person will think to the best of his or her ability and give you some possible ways. But how many of us do our own thinking? How many of us carry our own burden? And why we are not able to think ourselves? We must always have a thought process. And then we can take advice from seniors, people who are our parents, our role model, whoever it is. I'm totally against a person saying it's my life, so I don't care what you think. That's a very bad approach. And you will find as you go along in life that such persons sooner or later are unhappy. The third thing I mentioned was the Myers-Briggs Vision Mission Framework. These were the three things I have mentioned so far. Now let me talk about what are the elements of leadership. And I'll give you a quotation. I don't know whether Professor Mishra has heard of it, but I will not give you the source of this quotation. Who said it? And the quotation is, I quote, "What we need is not a leader to lead the masses. What we need is not a leader to lead the masses. What we need is leadership of the self. What we need is leadership of the self." Dr. Saab, any idea? This is very simple English and to me a very powerful thought, but can you guess whom I'm quoting? So if Dr. Saab cannot guess, I don't think anybody else in the audience can. Yes, sir. No. A person very far removed from Mr. Narendra Modi. I can't hear properly. No. Okay. This is said by a person whom I had the privilege of meeting last year in the month of October and spending 3 hours. This is the King of Bhutan. The King of Bhutan. How many people in this room know what is the official policy of the government of Bhutan as laid down in their 5-year plans? Just as we have 5-year plans, Bhutan also has 5-year plans. What is their underlying philosophy? No, the gentleman right at the back, whose hand I can see but not the face. You are not at the back, sir, you are in the middle. Yes, Gross National Happiness Index. 5 days ago, to the best of my knowledge, for the first time, one of the states of the Union of India has created a Department of Happiness. I read about it in the paper 5 days ago. Any guess which state of the Union of India has created a department? But the minister has not yet been allotted for it. Yes, Madhya Pradesh. Madhya Pradesh, not Andhra Pradesh. I was in Bhopal. Day before yesterday, I returned from Bhopal. I was there for 3 days, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And on 30th, when I saw the papers, there's been a cabinet reshuffle. Mr. Babulal Gaur, a very prominent person, has been dropped from the cabinet. He was former Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, and one Mr. Sartaj Singh, very prominent people. So there I read in that a Department of Happiness has been created inspired by Bhutan. But minister has not yet been named, and I don't know whether any secretary has been named. Just to correct Ms. Sarkar, I have now, by the grace of God, visited 46 countries. And the 46th country I visited was Bhutan. And I really felt so bad when I visited Bhutan. I spent hardly 4 or 5 days. I felt terrible. And I said, वो कहावत है ना, चिराग तले अंधेरा. Chirag is flame. So beneath the flame you have that area of darkness. That I had never been to Bhutan. I suggest each one of you to undertake a visit to Bhutan at the first opportunity you get during your vacations and break. And you will then realize where the Bhutanese are and where Indians are. There is no comparison amongst us. They are far ahead of us. Far ahead of us. You see, if you measure things materially, then you go by GDP. If you measure things in the happiness index, we are nowhere near the Bhutanese. And what I could understand, I was very lucky. I went there as a member of a very high-level delegation. We had a meeting with the Prime Minister, Mr. Tokbe, for about an hour and a half in his office. And then His Majesty, who by the way is the same age as my elder child, just a few months older to my elder child. He is now 37 and my elder child is 36 plus. So I was feeling very paternalistic when I was looking at the king, because, and I realized he's just, I said, ye to hamare bacche ki umar ka hai. But that gentleman is not full of data. He's not full of information. He is full of wisdom. I think I learned more from him than he would have probably learned from me in the interaction. And what simplicity, what humility. And you know what? Bhutan is a Buddhist country. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with the basic tenets of what Lord Buddha taught. But I hope all of you have heard that he always spoke about the golden medium, the middle path. And he gave 8 principles for this medium or median or middle path. And I found that in practice amongst the Bhutanese. Of course, I didn't interact with the so-called common man. I didn't go in buses or there are no trains there. It's a completely hilly place. But whatever I interacted with, I found everybody very peaceful, very contented. I could sense it, that much I will agree with what the lady said about me and what the professor said, that along the journey of life, I have learned a few things. And I could make out by my experience and my interaction that nobody was acting. And there was no need for them to act, because I am anyway a retired civil servant. And I had not gone in an official capacity as a representative of the government of India. I had gone in what is called the track to dialogue process, which has the blessings of the government of both the countries, but which is not governmental in the sense that it is binding on the governments in terms of protocol and other things. Let me tell you a few things which the king told us. We were a 10-member delegation, all very eminent people. Amongst the things he told us is, he said, every Thursday, I think Thursday, I'm not sure, could be Wednesday, could be Friday, but I remember Thursday. He said, every Thursday, I call some wise men, and I keep calling different wise men from my kingdom. I invite them to have tea with me, and we sit. He has some garden apparently which overlooks the river which runs there. So he said, we sit in a in a garden setting near the river, and for at least 3 hours we discuss ideas. And I tell those learned people, please tell me what I should do. What can I do for my country? As the king of this country, how do I take care of my subjects? He spoke about this. Another thing, both he and his wife, we didn't meet his wife, she had not come for that dinner, only the king had come. But he mentioned during the conversation, both he and his wife, they trek for days together. They carry their own backpack, the king. It's not carried by some chamcha or some chaprasi or something. He carries the king. And they walk 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. They trek. They go to the interiormost villages. They stay there with their subjects. Legally, the term used is subjects because it's a kingdom. And he is loved by his people. He's just 37 and he became king at the age of 34, I think. Then one of the persons from the Indian mission who's been there for a long time and is very experienced, when I was praising this young man, the king, he told me, sir, next time you come to Bhutan, we'll give you an audience with the king's father. He's even greater than the son. Arey, I said, bhai, isi baar mila dete unse bhi. You know what the father did? When the king's grandfather passed away, his father was very young. I think he was 17 or 18. He became king. When he reached the age of, he's I think slightly younger to me, the king's father, or my age. When he reached the age of, I think 60 or 59 or 60 or something around that, he himself decided that I will now take retirement. And my son will be the king. And he's there. They stay in the same palace together. Have you heard of people just saying, no, I am now 58, 59. I think I have groomed my son. He should take over. Where has the king been educated? In the best universities in United States of America. One of the Ivy League universities. Not Harvard, but I don't remember, but Cornell or Stanford or one of these Ivy League universities. Then the third thing, which some of you may have read in the papers, just about 6 or 8 weeks ago, the royal couple had their first baby. A son was born. What do we do in India? Depending on whatever our religious and cultural background is nowadays, we'll have dhoom dhadaka, cradle ceremony, this ceremony, 13वीं दिन, 10वां दिन, I don't know, kheer chatai, depending on our culture and our religious background. And we will call hundreds or thousands of people and blow up lakhs of rupees in the so-called cradle ceremony or naming. For example, tomorrow, which is the 6th, I have an invitation from a colleague of mine for the cradle ceremony of his grandson. I have the message on my phone. It's in some big hotel. So I have conveyed my regret saying, thank you very much. All my good wishes and blessings for the function and for your grandchild, but I will be unable to attend. I don't attend such programs. And I have never organized cradle ceremonies for my children or my grandchildren. What did the king and queen of Bhutan do? Trees plantation. There are 3 things which are unique about Bhutan, which no country in the world has. No country in the world. Number 1, the king has given a democratic constitution to the country by himself. The people did not ask for a democratic framework, constitutional framework. The king has given it. Law was passed in the Bhutanese parliament, and Bhutan has become a different type of constitutional monarchy. It's not like Britain, where the queen is in name. Here the king has certain powers, but most of the powers are with the prime minister and the council of ministers. This is, to the best of my limited knowledge, something unique, that the king gives a democracy. Number two, they have legislated that till all times to come, 63% of their geographical area will be under forestry. We are talking of leadership. This is real leadership. 63%, come what may. And number three, what was said in the very beginning, their purpose in life is not to make money, not to buy cars, not to have air conditioners, not to have, all the material comforts, but sukoon-e-dil or dimag, peace of mind, contentment, happiness. So therefore they measure their life not in terms of GDP, GNP, but in terms of gross happiness. So these are three unique things. And in fact, Professor Mishra, I would elicit your good wishes also. I'm very keen that I should make a repeat visit to Bhutan and spend more time there. So last time the invitation came very unexpectedly. This time I have given a hint to the organizers that, bhai, I am available now also. Because I fell in love with that place in a single visit at a very late stage in my life. I wish I had gone there 35 years before. And please, as Indians, not just as human beings, but as Indians, start reflecting the moment I conclude my remarks, and amongst yourselves, please think about these things. What is the purpose of your life? What gives you contentment which is not superficial, which is not peer pressured, that because उनके पास ये है तो मेरे पास भी होना चाहिए. One more example I'd like to tell you of material where Bhutan is ahead of India in 4G. This 4G connectivity, it is ahead of India. How is it ahead? You know what is the total population of Bhutan? Less than 8 lakhs. What they have done, wherever they have their channels and cables, they have put 4G concurrently along with that. And they have already planned for 5G and 6G. So at least 10 years ahead they look. And in our country, I was municipal commissioner of this city.